Hey gang, I hope the sound's working. Put on a little lapel mic because there's doing some mowing or something outside and it's loud as hell here. But on today's show, what's in the box? We have the affectionately long forgotten Sega Dreamcast. I really loved this system. It didn't do very well. But the story of me and the system was that, I don't know, this came out in 94, maybe? Sega Dreamcast was Saturn, was the follow-up to the insanely successful Sega Genesis, which also had the Genesis 32X, as well as the Sega Genesis CD-ROM drive. And as everything was moving at the time towards CD-ROM, Sega made that full leap into it with the Sega Saturn. It's an odd little system because it has several processors in it. I can't remember the exact story about it, but the right one wasn't developed yet by the time this was supposed to come out, so they ended up using two lesser ones instead of one big one. It also still had a cartridge slot on it, which was interesting as a RAM expansion and ways that you were able to hack games and play burned games and play imported games at some point also. This thing, again, I went to some kind of training camp at Virginia Tech for baseball around the inception of this thing. My parents were like, go do something during the summer that isn't staying up all night with your friends and playing video games, which I don't know if that's exactly how that conversation went, but that's how most of my life went and childhood. So they weren't wrong. However, at this baseball camp, I did manage to fall and break my collarbone, putting me inside all summer. So, once inside and stuck inside, I said, Dad, please, if I'm gonna be here for months on end, basically in this chair. When you break your collarbone, they basically just put you in the sling that holds your arms back, and it's not like a cast, but any way you move, it hurts that broken floating bone. So my friend Todd had gotten one of these. It looked awesome. It was awesome. It came with Virtua Fighter, and I remember playing the crap out of that, and then again, begging my dad to get me one, which, to his credit, he did. Hello, Alex. Alex, can you hear me? I put this mic on, and I didn't test it first. Hopefully it works. The Sega Dreamcast controller, if I can get one out, or two of them all bundled up, were the kind of the next step in their Genesis controllers. The 6-button, or 3 to 6 button configuration on the front, but then added 2 bumpers. This is when video games started getting big into having a million buttons on the controllers. A, B, C, X, Y, Z, and I don't remember what they called the bumpers. I'm sure they're just right and left. We don't have an analog stick yet, but this thing feels round in a way that other D-pads didn't feel at the time. It's great. Also came with a 4-banger, where if you, actually this is a 6? Yeah, 6. So I believe if you had 2 of these, there's a Bomberman game you can play with 12 players at one time, which was huge for the time. Another interesting thing that this game had, or the system had, it came with Virtua Cop. And Virtua Cop came with this like insane light gun, which I love. Makes that clicking sound when you shoot it. Really fun, great light gun. Although I feel like there was maybe 2 Virtua Cops and maybe 1 or 2 other light gun games. Maybe there was a House of the Dead, something else. What I really loved about this gun though, and the reason beyond being able to play having 2 light guns when you play with friends, is that the Scud the Disposable Assassin, shout out to Big Rob Schraub for having such an amazing game made of his property. You could play, when you played as Scud, you could use 2 light guns to play the game, or you could play the game with a D-pad. But it was really one of the only games I can think of where it's designed to play with 2 light guns, which is why I got 2 light guns. What else do we have for accessories for this thing? I have a giant joystick I won't get out. I bought it for Panzer Dragoon, which is a great game, but then rarely used it. The Saturn did eventually come out with a D-pad for its game Knights, which I think they were hoping was going to be like their next Sonic. Like, I think it was supposed to be an IP that like went somewhere. We're getting much more into what we all think of as modern controllers now. Instead of the bumpers on the top, we now have triggers on the bottom. Again, the analog stick here for all that kind of fluid movement. I don't think many things used this controller other than Knights for the Saturn. Because right around the time Knights came out, that's when the Saturn started going away. Which was in part because I think development for that system was really hard because of the way the chipset was and the graphics chip on it. Because I don't have to get into this unless you really want to know the nerdy details. The chipset was designed to both do one kind of video card in it was primarily for polygon graphics, the 3D stuff that looks like bad virtual reality that we all know and love. And the other one was for more of the 2D sprite animation, which we really do love. But the combination of the two allowed for some very cool parallax scrolling. There's a lot of neat stuff that they were able to do with that system, despite its sort of shortcomings. Let's get to the games, because I have a crap ton of games. Like I said, it came with Virtua Fighter. I know it's not the best fighting game ever, but it was a fun 3D polygon game at the time. Memorable characters, despite them being like really kind of generic in their execution because of the polygon limitations. Some of them are very like obviously like the guy in front, like a Ryu ripoff from Street Fighter. It feels a little bit like Tekken also, but it also feels a lot like Soul Calibur before there was a Soul Calibur. You have a 3D ring in which you can knock people out of the ring. And again, because it was on a CD-ROM, there's all these odd music and sound choices. So your polygon guys could do things like howl, like the character whose name is Wolf is. You know, Wolf obviously howls. He's like, Wolf was like a Native American wrestler. I sort of like that aspect to it. It's a real like multicultural cast, which is one of the fun things about Virtua Fighter. Really fun game. Here's this. I love these. I don't find these enough anymore, but the Sega Saturn choice cuts, they were early demo disc for things. This one had bug, mist, all the usuals on it. This took me so long to find, and I was so glad when I did. And this is the whole reason I have one of those. It's somewhere in here. Action Replay. Well, here's the regular backup memory expansion card for it, but I got one of the hack ROM cards for it. The Dungeons and Dragons collection, which was an amazing, amazing arcade game. As a kid who played Dungeons and Dragons, who loved it very much, this was the first really arcade, even though it's kind of like a side-scroller beat 'em up, that felt really like Dungeons and Dragons and really put you in that world. Come in a little tighter for these games. I hope that was a weird zoom for everybody else. Of course, did not come out in America, but did come out in Japan. So I imported this thing, probably bought it off eBay. Maybe I went to Atlanta. I don't remember where I got this. But I was really so glad I did, even though it was in Japanese. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up with Dungeons and Dragons themes. So it was fine, but amazing, great, fun game. Lots of really interesting, good stuff for the Saturn that did not make it to the US, unfortunately. I also had a Sega Game Gear. I wasn't a big Sega person, didn't own a Genesis, but the Saturn definitely made me into a Sega person, as did the Game Gear to some extent. Game Gear came with Columns. It was their answer to Tetris. Columns is a really great game. It's a lot of fun. It's got a really weird score too. But again, they had the Columns collection in Japan, which was all of their Columns games. A lot of fun. Magic Knight Wraith. One of the other things that the Saturn could do that other systems weren't able to at first was play VCDs and MPEG files. So Magic Knight Wraith was a really interesting, it's not a great game, but it had the inclusion of a lot of live animation in the game in a way that really nothing had yet. I think maybe some of the Sega Genesis CD-ROM stuff started having that, but this one really, I mean, it feels like you're playing and watching an anime. Let's get back to that. Here is, there's an ad in the wrong place on this. Come on. Come on. Sega, in a way, was, I wouldn't say perpetually chasing Nintendo, but they were always looking, they learned from Nintendo and they learned from Sonic that you really needed some really heavy-hitting IPs that were exclusive to your system, right? The TurboGrafx 16 had Bonk. Everybody knows Mario, Zelda, all the things that like make Nintendo properties now and make them very successful. Sega tried to do this. It worked, sort of. It worked more in Japan, which is why Golden Axe Duel, which again, huge fan of the arcade game Golden Axe, I had to buy also as an import. It's good. I wouldn't say it's great also. And you understand that like why these IPs just didn't click in the same way when they came here. Again, it's a 2D fighting game, you know, with the characters from Golden Axe, obviously. And everybody at this time, remember, is trying to make Street Fighter. They work sometimes and sometimes they don't. Golden Axe is a very easy one because, you know, if your main bad guy is this dude who's awesome, he's obviously like your M. Bison. It made sense. I wish it had worked, but it didn't. I'm just going to go through all of the imports before I get to the other domestic releases, as it were. I don't know why these are bundled together. I guess because I got them at an auction like this. Japan, the land of my home heart, in terms of obsessing over their culture in ways that I especially at the time, I didn't understand. I didn't speak Japanese and couldn't read kanji. Still can't. But, and I got this much later in life, so I don't know wherever that says. Kitchen Stadium Tour, which is exactly what it says it is. It's a tour of Kitchen Stadium from Iron Chef Japan. It's not a good game. I wish it was an actual kind of cooking game. But it is cool because you do get to tour through Kitchen Stadium, as it were. But if you don't speak Japanese or read Japanese, it's very difficult. There's another game in here. I don't know why. These are bundled together in this package. Now it's just Fighting Vipers. Another Sega attempt at... maybe I bought a bundle of these and that's why they're all packaged up weird. Again, I've never played these because try as I might, I don't speak Japanese. The J-League official TV game, I don't know, it's a soccer game, soccer simulator. It is a soccer simulator. It looks fine. I don't know. I don't like soccer. I don't like soccer games. And the other one that I wish I was into and understood Japanese for this, even though I don't like soccer or read Japanese, is this this game where you become the coach. And that's become the coach for the national team. It's a RPG, as you can see by the side. It says there somewhere. So it's a role-playing game where you're the soccer coach of a team. I would like to think, although the artwork on the back or the screens don't seem to imply this much, except for maybe this and this right here. I'd like to think it's like you managing their daily lives and trying to get them to eat right for maximum energy and performance during a soccer game. But again, I don't know. I've never played it. Do I have 2 Golden Axe duels? I do. If anybody out there is looking for a imported copy of Golden Axe Duel for the Sega Saturn, there you go. The greatest game in 2D Metroidvania side-scrolling history came out for the PlayStation around this time, which I also had, that I liked okay. But I really loved Symphony of the Night. And everybody loves that game. And then when I heard that there was the Japanese release of, I guess it's Dracula X in Japan, the Symphony of the Night for the Sega Saturn, I freaked out and had to get it. The problem is, a lot of the charm of that game on the PlayStation didn't translate as well. The game was really geared towards the hardware of the PlayStation and not the Dreamcast. And so it was like playing a thing that you knew and loved, but it just didn't look or feel right. I still played through it because there was like, I guess they put a couple different levels in it and you could play as, Richter and Maria, which were neat. Paying whatever I paid to import this, plus playing through it again in Japanese in a way that made it a little difficult if you hadn't played the game before. What else we got? The other cool thing about the Sega Saturn is when it was like going out of business, I guess as it were, or out of style or whatever else, everybody just gave me all their Saturn stuff. So I have a bunch of stuff that I both played and then like didn't play. But again, back to the domestics. Oh, there's the Saturn choice cuts. Goes with that. Don't know what this is. I think this is the instruction manual. Oh, for Brain Dead 13. So, because of its video capabilities, because of it being like, it was really one of the first consoles that was getting close to being just a little computer. Excellent kind of adventure, weird games started popping up like Brain Dead 13, which I think was also available for the computer, but available for the Saturn as well. This is for the computer, but I think it came out, I'm pretty sure it came out for the Saturn too. Virtual On, which is a fantastic game, another just really heavy hitter arcade game as well. Fighting robots, 3D thing. Nathan, can you hear me? I haven't checked yet. I think my sound's working, right? Maybe. Anyways, Virtual On was great. In the arcade, you had dual sticks to control the robots. I love anything with tank controls. As mentioned before, Virtua Cop, the game where you play a cop and shoot stuff in Polygon. It is a really great light gun game too, because when you get good at it, you know where all the enemies are. It's on rails, so you just kind of play through it. But the targets will hone in on the guys too, to be like, pay attention, there's the bad man. It's pretty fun, and like Daytona USA, another one of their like hot properties, it suffers from really bad like English overdubs and translations. So when the bad guys come out, who look like Polygon, sort of like bodyguard criminal men, it's like, hey, stop it. Awesome, Nathan. Thank you for confirming that. I didn't check the mic before I started doing this thing. And I was like, maybe no one can hear me. I'm just doing this show for me. Daytona USA is a fun racing game. I mostly found it fun to crash cars and cause pileups, but also it had the theme song, which is one of those like, we're making a game about racing, and Daytona, Florida, I think it's where Daytona is, and we explained the idea of Florida to a bunch of Japanese studio musicians and got them to make the theme song of this. Anyone who's played the game or has been near the arcade machine of the game knows that song, which is Daytona, let's go away. It's got that like just perfect bad English. Tomb Raider, there was a lot of ports. We started getting a lot of ports from systems for different games. I think at some point I just tried to collect all the Saturn games I could find. So some of these I haven't played, so don't judge me. I never played Tomb Raider for Saturn, although I own it. Baseball World Series 98. Virtua Tennis. So someone probably knows better than me. There was Virtua for things and then virtual. I don't know why. Maybe you drop the L, it's cooler. It's like everything being extreme. I didn't play a lot of virtual tennis. Although this guy now makes me sort of want to play this game. He looks like a weird Charlie, like extreme sports Charlie Brown. I don't know, tennis games can be fun, but again, not my forte. I'm setting some ones that I really want to talk about to the side. Knights. Again, talked about that. Another Sega property, which was a great arcade game. Pretty okay. Port was Road Rash. Road Rash was a lot of fun, although I didn't care a ton for racing games. But again, as you can see by the picture, you could hit people with chains when you're racing them, and that's just a great feature in any game. Wait on these. Another, the actual boxed edition of Virtual On. Again, love some fighting robots. Someone, at some point, maybe I'll do it, should talk about character design, and especially in fighting games, when it works and when it doesn't work. Virtual On, Virtua Fighter, Soul Calibur, Street Fighter, all those games do a really pretty excellent job of creating characters, selectable characters. Again, it seems pretty obvious when you talk about it. Making characters that all had distinct features, and the heavier fighters did more damage, could take more damage, but were very slow, right? And those are your kind of more tank-looking guys, the guys who were bigger and bulbous and whatever. It's simple, like matching shapes with characters, but it creates for a dynamic gameplay, and one in which all the characters don't feel like you're playing the same thing. I think it's one of the things that they're really going for in Overwatch. Whether they succeeded or failed is whatever. Robotica. A lot of these first-person games came out because of the 3D capabilities of these things. This one was pretty fun. You're sort of like a mech, although really it's just a first-person shooter where you just kill robots in space, which I'm not mad about at all. Virtual Fighter 2, just more of the same. Repeated the success, honing the graphics. I think I had a few more extra characters. It's fine. I'm getting to the ones that I really like, but I'm getting rid of the ones that I don't really want to talk about but can go over. More Daytona Usa in the big box. Same stuff. Gex! Always looking for another, Sonic or whatever. It's just it's a bouncing kind of side scroller with a Geico lizard that does stuff. It was a good game. It's fine. It's fine platformer. Don't think about it much. Battle Arena Toshinden Remix. I don't know. This was a popular game. I'm sure I played it, but I don't think about it anymore. All right, let's get to the meat of this. Sega's always had notable role-playing games that no one thought twice about. Legend of Oasis is no different. This is kind of a Link top-down sort of RPG, action RPG, whatever you call those. A lot of fun. Very basic game, but again, it's just different. Especially if you love those kind of games and you've played them to death on every system besides Sega. The first game that I got for the system was Panzer Dragoon. There is, that kind of magic balance that happens when you put an art style. The art direction's really great with the sound, with the controls, when all the elements of the game really balance out. And Panzer Dragoon for me was like the first one for the Saturn that did this really well. It had a very distinct style, it had a very distinct sound, it had its own little weird little language and written language throughout the game that was specific to the world that they were in. It was kind of this Mad Max post-apocalyptic scenario world that was both in the future but maybe in the past. Really neat game. Again, it's sort of on rails too. It's a flying 3D shooter if you guys haven't played this game before. But again, with really neat bosses, with really neat consideration to the type of the biology of the world, I guess as it were, and the animals and things that inhabit that world along with the people and what they're up to. Great game. Spawned a trilogy of games. Where's the second one? Do I have the second one? I have to have the second one. Maybe I don't. All right, well, crap. I don't have the second one. Anyways, there's a second one. It was pretty good. But then right before the Saturn died, they released the masterpiece of the system and masterpiece of that series, which is Panzer Dragoon Saga. I'm torn about what to do with this game now that I'm 41, because it took forever for me to get this game. And when I did get it, I think I paid $60 for it, which felt like the most I'd ever played for a video game. I looked it up the other day. It's going for like $2,400 now. So I'm thinking I should get mine graded and probably sell it again for my kids. Although that's the balance, right? Hey kids, do you want to experience one of the greatest action role-playing shooter games ever that nothing like it sort of exists, and it hasn't come out on any other system since then because it's on 4 CDs and it's really hard to replicate because of the hardware of the Sega Saturn? Or are they better off with $2,400 in a savings account? It's hard to know. But yeah, this game, I don't know. We could talk about this game for an hour if anyone wanted to. The epic conclusion, which I guess is true. I guess this is the last one. But it really, that sort of vague, beautiful world of Panzer Dragoon, Panzer Dragoon Saga puts a real story to it, a huge epic story, as it was told in the byline. But it's just a really, again, well thought out role-playing game based on a shooter, which doesn't always happen. Lots of times those things don't translate very well. And Panzer Dragoon Saga did a really exceptional job. And the reason that this game is such a cult classic and sought after game is because there's nothing like it. I mean, you have different types of dragons that you can level up in different ways that evolve them, I guess is the best way to put it. With different kind of loadouts of weapons and all these different RPG elements, but that are unique to that world and to the way that that world looks and functions. Just so damn good. The Saturn also had, and some of them were release titles, a lot of really great 3D platformers that were a lot of fun. Starting with the first one I got, which is called Bug, and again, it's like Gex, it's like Sonic, it's like Mario, whatever. We got a kind of cartoon, protagonist kind of going around this 3D world, but again, it's not super complicated. But everything sort of works in this game. The art direction, the enemies, again, this kind of layered parallax 3D environments where you can do platforming action, I guess, happens. It's a fun game. I really enjoyed this game. I didn't think I was going to enjoy this game. I thought this was going to be one of those games that I talked my sister into buying because she'd like it, just to have it kind of part of the game. But I ended up loving this game. It was a lot of fun. Similarly, I had another game like it called Clockwork Knight. And again, it's just 3D. It's almost exactly like Bug, just a 3D platformer. But there's something kind of charming about these games, and especially this era of art style and animation, where it feels very generic. It looks very generic. All the stuff in it is very generic, but in that sort of way, it's reminiscent of a lot of other things. And when you play it, it feels like that, but then some. I don't know. And they work because of that. The problem is when you make a generic thing that sort of works in that hard to describe way, it doesn't always like follow up well. So Clockwork Knight 2 is just more the same, and they tried to give it more personality and more detail and whatever else, and it didn't work for me. I felt like there was a strange world in the first one that wasn't necessarily there in the next one. What else we got? I'm going to save all those to go together. Let's just start doing the RPGs. Or some of the more fighting. Fighters Megamix. If you couldn't get enough Virtua Fighter, this says Virtua Fighter Fighting Vipers and other stuff. Bonus stuff. Hidden characters. It's fine. It's just a way to like, an early, easy way to be like, oh, not enough content? This would be DLC now if it was another game. But not enough content for your fighting in that one game? Here's some more. I think I have Fighting Vipers in here. Did I already go over Fighting Vipers? Maybe. Doesn't matter. Another one I bought early on, which I really liked, was Cyber Speedway. Every system ever has racing games and things about it with racing. Again, felt really generic, but in a neat way. You had these kind of weird cyber sled-ish things that look almost like, more like weird flying submarines, and really close to the speed version of the ship and Flight of the Navigator. This was a neat game. I don't know, there wasn't a lot like it. It's a very short game. There's really not much to it. But again, it feels distinct in a way of like a lot of generic things. How would you say that? The most distinct generic thing. It has the most personality for being kind of a generic thing. Let's save my favorite ones for last. Let's get into, what do we got? Goldmax Duel. This is I guess there was a domestic release when I was saying that there wasn't with that other one. Surprisingly, it doesn't look as good on the back of this one. I don't know why. Looks like those are photographs of a TV screen versus capturing the game for it, which is an odd thing. But you know what? Let me just put this out there. If you're a fan of Golden Axe, it's great. If you're a fan of Conan the Barbarian, it's great. Play it. Have fun. Have at it. All right. Skeleton Warriors. Is this based on a show? Was this based on a show? I don't remember. But yeah, it's okay. Platformer where you fight skeletons, who also happen to be warriors. Keep going. All right. Forgotten and really fun RPGs. I'll just knock these all out at one time. Albert's Odyssey. A lot of these flex a lot of great 2D pixel animation in the style of all those really great Japanese RPGs of the time. This one is a little bit like Final Fantasy in its delivery, but still just a really great game. This one still actually has my receipt in it from Babbage's, where I got it. When did I buy this? January 1st, 1998. I bought this for $44 in 1998. I must have thought a lot of it, but still didn't play it that much. Paid $60 in cash, which is probably insane because I was working at the Record Exchange. Anyways, Babbage's, God bless you, rest in peace. It's got a bunch of booklets in it, including this one where you can order all this Albert's Odyssey t-shirts and hats. If you wanted to let everyone know that you're going to wait to have sex when you got married, and pens, if you ever got married. It was a fun game. I think Albert's Odyssey is part of a line. Albert Odyssey, I'm pretty positive it is. It was probably also on the Sega CD. Shining Wisdom, another really fun kind of top-down action JRPG. Also a lot of fun. Was on a lot of things. Did I know? I did not buy this at Babbage's then. I bought this somewhere for $4.99, which was a steal. I probably bought this at Happy's for $4.99, and someone paid a lot of money for it at Babbage's. Good for me, bad for them, whatever. Shining Wisdom. Blazing Heroes. This one had a lot of potential. Not as fun, but it's good. Dark Savior. This one had a lot more character to it. A lot of really pretty great graphics, if you can see that. And that, why can't I remember that? You take it to your thing, you put it this way. It'll come to me. That kind of 3D environment. It's an action game, sort of, but you level up, you buy spells and weapons, and it's fun. Burning Rangers. This was a weird idea from Japan, and they're good for that. Who made this game? I guess this is Sega. Sega made it. It's a sci-fi RPG, I guess you could say. You're firefighters. I think, is this the one? Yeah. It's wild, it's angry. It's like no enemy you've ever faced before. From the creators of Sonic the Hedgehog and Knights come the ultimate challenge. Fire! Strap on your jump jets and battle 50-foot firewalls, exploding fuel tanks, 1,000-degree temperatures, and the fear that the innocent victims that you must rescue aren't the only ones endangered of being barbecued alive. Ashes to ashes, you're dust. Anyways, it's a weird game, and it's good, though, because it is weird. As it said, your typical enemies in this game are fire. Spoiler, some other enemies are people who start fires, but it's really about surviving and saving people in a set amount of time. And again, you can sort of level up. You can buy different rocket packs and abilities to help you fight fires. Not your typical RPG. Something that Sega got to be really known for. Same with the DS. There's oddball systems that say yes to a lot of odd RPGs. The Saturn was definitely one of them. God bless him for it. Darius Gaiden, this is a classic, side-scrolling, what am I trying to say? Shooter? Flying game? Gradius is basically in this world of these types of games, or is one of those games, I don't remember. But it's fun, it's good, it looks good, plays fun. That's what it is. All right, let's do these and I'll go to my last one I mentioned. Like everything on CD-ROM and like everything on the Sega CD-ROM and the CD-ROM at the time, full motion video, everybody's favorite. I know it's mine and yours. The Mansion of Hidden Souls. I will stream this sometime. This one isn't as much full motion video, but it is. It does have some full motion video in it, and it's one of those like 3D kind of mist, seventh guest, silly first person environments that you click through and click through, and things happen. What is fact? What is fiction? The truth may lay in the cards. So, roam the rooms of this seemingly deserted mansion, searching for clues to the past. Don't let the apparitions frighten you. They need your help and your needs. Oh, and you need theirs. So if you guys like helping Ghost, Mansion of Hidden Souls. What else we got? My favorite full motion video on this. This is so bad. There was a game called Night Trap, which I hope we all know and love. Night Trap was the first sort of M-rated game. It came out. It was full motion video. It came out on a lot of things. If you don't know what Night Trap is, go look it up. Watch everything you can on Night Trap. But it had this like awful system that basically made it unplayable. It made a lot of these games unplayable because it's basically like jumping track. There's a timer and in the game where things happen, and you need to skip between chapters. Basically, that's the mechanics of how it actually works. But the different chapters or tracks on the CD are like different security cameras. So you're trying in Night Trap to keep OGs these bad guys who are just kind of like look like CIA perverts or like black op. I don't know. It's weird. They're like putties from Power Rangers, but they're in this like these black ops uniforms. Anyways, doesn't matter. You got to keep these Ogs from ruining these like girls' parties, but there's also another like secret mystery to it. Go watch there's a video of all of the cutscenes in a way that makes Night Trap almost like a movie and makes sense. Go watch that. It's great. It's a really wonderful time. Maybe I'll screen that sometime, because that's a weird thing that most people will never see, unfortunately. But anyways, in the wake of Night Trap, they made a game called Double Switch, which stars Corey Haim, amongst other not so notable B-name crazy people. Corey Haim is like, he's not the apartment manager, but he's got something to do with this like kind of Melrose Place-ish building that may be haunted, that may be like under attack. It's hard to know. But you're in this like control room playing as Corey Haim, but also Corey Haim sort of helping you. And again, you got to switch between all these different monitors to keep track of what's happening in this building to keep people from getting killed. Welcome to Edward Arms, a stately turn-of-the-century mansion full of intrigue and shady characters who, like Edward Arms itself, are never as they seem. At first, you must watch the rooms closely, trapping any intruders with ingenious hidden devices. But in this treacherous world of secrets within secrets, everyone's got an angle. You've got to figure out what it is, or the trapper will become the trapped, and the shocking secret to Edward Arms will remain a mystery forever. I love everything about the idea of this game. It is completely unplayable. I've never been able to get more than like 10 minutes in the game. I will hook up the Saturn later and stream some of these. For us all to enjoy and how bad they are together. And I don't have to come up with hyperbole after hyperbole of how poor the controls in this work. But it does star Debbie Harry and Corey Haim. So there's that. And the music was done by Thomas Dolby. So everything, it checks off a lot of stuff in my cultural trappings box. I just wish it was a better game. All right, last two, and we're done. We're done with the Sega Saturn and what's in those boxes. Let's start with Scud. Scud the Disposable Assassin. Rob Schraub, again, who we all know and love. His incredible comic book about a vending machine assassin that you could buy to kill someone that would self-destruct after you hire them to kill someone. Everything about it's great. Read the comic, follow everything Rob Schraub does. He's easily one of the funniest, like underappreciated people in Hollywood and comic books ever. But there was this hot minute when Scud came out that it was going to be an animated series. It was going to be a movie. It was going to be everything. And they jumped on it. And sadly, one of the only things that got made was this video game. Fortunately, for people who weren't in Hollywood in the mid to late 90s or adjacent to Rob and his crew, I learned about Scud because of this game. I don't know, it looked weird because it is weird. Rob is a super creative person who, again, has his own thumbprint on everything he does. And I love that there was a character in this named Drywall. I loved everything about Scud before I knew Scud was even a comic, and it led me to the comics. So I wouldn't say the game was a total failure. The game is a little hard to play. It is a little confused. But again, like I said earlier, it's why I got 2 of those light guns, because it is one of the only games in history that I can think of where you can play the game with 2 stunners. I guess that's what they were called. They weren't called light guns, stunners. But it was really neat. It was a fun game. It's got some music that Rob, at some point I would love to sit down with Rob, if you're watching this, and have you talk me through the development of this game, because there's a lot I'd like to know about it. But anyways, Scud the Disposable Assassin, really seriously played. I think it was only really ever released for the Sega Saturn and maybe the PC. And they might be 2 different games. I'm pretty sure they're 2 different games. Again, the interesting thing about this game is it's a side-scroller action shooter, or it's a light gun game. depending on what you plug into your Saturn. But it's really neat, very unique as the subject material, which again makes it a very precious game indeed. This is also one of those games where really kind of unique music, probably made on a 4-track. The score to this game is done in CD tracks on there, and I remember copying those to tape and listening to them in my car well into like my late teens. And probably, aside from Scud and Panzer Dragoon Saga, there's another game I'm hard pressed to know why it hasn't been re-released on another system, and it may have, and I just missed it. But it was, I can't remember if Todd got this game or I got this game first, but whatever the case. This game is Stall. It's kind of, I don't know, it's got kind of a convoluted story. I don't know anything really about it. I should look it up at some point. But it's a side-scroller plus. It's really interesting in its art style and direction. It's this kind of Japanese fairy tale anime style that is very similar to like Unico or, anime, very specific type of anime that came out well before this game was made. So that's kind of curious. There's some really nice animation done for this. I don't know if this is an existing property and that's where it came from, or they just animated some opening sequences in different parts for this game. But again, it's an action side scroller. You play this dude, Stall, who is running around in this real weird world where everything's made of crystals, fighting all these bad guys to get back some lady. There's actually more about this story than I ever knew on the back because I just never read it, just played the game. Stall's world, Quarteria, is a mystical world, much different from Earth. Everything in this beautiful land was created from a handful of jewels by a goddess named as Antowas, A-N-T-O-W-A-S, Antowas. So that's the one you got to save. Even Stall and Lita, the girl Stall loves, were created from jewels. But within the surreal beauty of Stall's world, evil lurks as the demon Gerardo will stop at nothing to take over Quartelia. Stall must use quick thinking, special moves, and his tremendous strength in this desperate search for Lita. Again, everything has a really wonderful color palette to it. I don't know if that's coming across. The stages that are at night feel like night. The ones that are in caves feel like they're in caves. There's a lot of really pretty sprite animation in this, and a lot of really consideration when it comes to the way things sound, the sound design, the ambient sound, the music, all that kind of stuff. I think it's a really fun game. I can't highly recommend it enough. You can play it as one person, and your special powers revolve around this little bird that can fly around and do stuff with you. But the neat thing about this game also, which makes it, special, still special, is that lots of times with two-player games, if there was two players in most normal games like a stall would just be, one with red hair and one with blue hair, and you just play the same game, but just with two people. Since when you're playing one player, your little special power bird can help you. When you play in two players, the second player actually plays in as the bird, which is a different type of experience and a different way to play the game. And the game is actually designed when you play it as two players to take advantage of using that dynamic in a way that, again, you can play the one player game just fine, but again, it's a different experience playing it as the second player, as the bird, and going through the levels with the first player and the bird. Really neat game. Lost to time, I guess, is the only system it ever came out for, but almost totally worth buying a Saturn just to play this thing. It's another one I'll play if I hook this up and stream it. I think that's it. All right, guys. Thanks for going through my boxes of Sega Saturn stuff with me. See you soon.